Welcome to the Rise2Shine Podcast with Noelle Kustas, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hey friend, welcome back to the Rise2Shine Podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Kustas, and I am so excited for today's episode because we are going deep into what it means to choose yourself in midlife and build a next chapter that feels both powerful and peaceful. My guest today is my friend and fellow next chapter guide, Lisa Blaisdell, and we actually go way back to our early days in entrepreneurship. And it has been such a gift to witness her evolution. Lisa is a multi-six-figure social entrepreneur who empowers midlife women to reclaim their self-worth, both emotionally, financially, and spiritually. So super fun work here. And after building this multi-million dollar business in network marketing, she actually made a really bold pivot that led to 600% growth. But her real transformation actually came when she left a long-term marriage and stepped into full alignment. So now, like me, she's mentoring women through the tender and courageous work of reinvention. So Lisa, I am so glad you are here.
Oh, Noelle, thank you so much for having me. We do go way back, and I feel like I'm just chatting with a dear old friend, and I just so admire and commend the work that you're doing for women, and it's just so important. And you are such a bright light, and the way that you are showing up and serving midlife women, I'm just really in awe of what you've created, and I'm just so happy to have this conversation and hopefully serve some of your amazing listeners that are
Oh.
out there today.
Well, the feelings are mutual, and I have been watching you. I got to kind of go through this transition with you online through social media. And then when we reconnected, it was so much fun, and you have truly inspired me. I love the way that you show up for women. I love that you are, I know authenticity is a word that's kind of been like put out there a ton lately, and people are like, what does that actually mean? But I can tell you that, and my audience here, that you, Lisa, honestly just always show up so authentically and always just you, whether it's a walk on the beach or coming in and, really sharing your heart, whatever that looks like. I just am always so inspired by that. And I love
Oh,
that.
thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's the ultimate compliment to, have someone say you show up exactly as you are. And
Totally.
that's what I want for all women is to
Yeah.
show up, unapologetically exactly as they are.
Love it, love it. Well, I cannot wait for this conversation. And I would just love, I know I did an introduction on kind of your summary of what is happening in life, but for those of you that are just meeting, for those people that are just meeting you, can you just share a little background and how this next chapter of your work was born, how you ended up here today?
Yes, no, I'm happy to. So I have had several businesses in the health and wellness industry. I'm still in that industry and have very much always wanted to help women and families, really with their health and empower women to, create extra income for their families if that's something that they want to do. But I went through a lot of transitions starting in 2020 as, the world changed, it really gave us all an opportunity to really reevaluate. Are we happy doing this? And I had been with one company for 17 years, so almost 2 decades. I really raised my family, as I built this business, and it meant a lot to our family. And it was an amazing source of income for me and allowed me to stay home with my daughters and still have a really great income. But I was stuck and I was stagnant and I wasn't serving women at the capacity that I wanted to. And when a new opportunity came in to help, for me to do something a little bit different, similar industry, but a different company. It was a very hard decision for me to make, but I did change companies and rebuilt an entirely new business from scratch, started over from scratch, resigned, my company didn't take anything with me. And that experience taught me a lot. And it taught me that when we get out of our comfort zones, and I teach this a lot, but when we take these brave leaps of faith and we just walk into the unknown and we just trust that it's all going to be okay, it can be even more incredible than what you even imagined it would be. And it was an incredible ride, and it gave me the courage to really start to admit that there were other parts of my life that I was not happy in. And I spent, like many women, busy raising my family, busy with my career, busy with friends and a community. We had a huge network of friends and community. And when that started to quiet down, my kids were getting older. My youngest went back to college after COVID. She was able to move back. And I was just kind of in the weeds of building this business again and having a lot of fun. It really like showed me that I was not happy in my marriage and that I was going to have to do something about it. This
Mm,
is very common for women of our age. And there's a lot of terms around this. And I think when our lives just kind of get quieter, I was able to have that honest conversation with myself first, which is what I encourage women to do. And I knew that something was going to have to change. And yet it was incredibly hard and incredibly painful. I was married to a good guy, and he is a good human. He's a good dad and a good provider. And we had a lot of really great years, but we were not meant to go the distance. And we had both really kind of changed into different people, and we both wanted different things. And yet, and I know this from the work I do, most men are willing to just stay in what's familiar. And I hate to categorize this, but I've coached a lot of women,
mhm.
and nothing was going to change unless I made the change.
Right.
It was a very, very difficult decision for me to come to. And even when we initially separated, it was very hard for me to ultimately pull the trigger because I felt so many things. I felt guilt, I felt shame. I
Hmm.
felt like how can I do this to my family, to our extended family? We had a beautiful life. I knew that was going to change. And it just there was a lot of fear. And it's very normal and it's very common. And it's what keeps women stuck in what they're not happy with. And so when I really got on the other side and I did make that change and really just started to live my new chapter, a lot of women were coming to me. They knew my story, they knew our family, they knew that my now ex-husband and I were amicable and that we were able to navigate this after the initial bumps, which
Right.
it is bumpy, there's no question about it.
Hmm.
But that we were able to come to a place where we could be friends and still celebrate our grown daughters together and just have a very healthy relationship. People wanted to know what I was doing. And
Hmm.
so it really just happened organically. And I started to share my story on social media, and it has just really evolved and snowballed from there. So it really came from my own story and me really wanting to help empower so many women who
Hmm.
feel like they just can't do this because they fear the unknown, they fear what other people will think.
Yeah.
They really get stuck in their own head. And obviously it takes two people to make a relationship and it takes two people to end a relationship. And sometimes they're met with incredible resistance.
Hmm.
And that's just a very hard path to go down. So
Yeah.
that's really how my coaching has unfolded. And I am in the weeds with women as they navigate this change. I'm really helping them with their emotions and really helping them feel validated.
Right.
Yes, it's okay to be very sad. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of confusion initially in how they're feeling because it's like, well, if I'm sad about this, like, why am I doing it? I shouldn't be doing it. So I really help them understand kind of why they're feeling this way. And I just continue to paint a vision for them and because I believe this with all my heart, that if you do this with love and compassion and you get the support that you need and allow the kids to process their emotions and offer support to them, which I think is so important, then everyone is going to be okay. And yes, it's a hard thing. Yes, it's a lot of change, but life is hard. And it's,
Right.
you know,
Right.
life can be very hard. And there's always
Yeah.
going to be things in life that are hard. And for me, going through this and landing on the other side has been such a great lesson for my daughters to see their mother do something very difficult and make this brave change. They were the only ones that knew how unhappy their father and I were.
Mhm.
We
Okay.
hid it from the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And as most families do,
Yeah.
you hide, no one is showing on social media all the stuff
Right.
behind the scenes.
Right.
And, they're proud of their parents and they're proud that
Yeah.
they, were able to navigate this and that we can still come together and support one another and be happy for each other in this new phase of life. And, they had to work through their own stuff and continue
Right.
to, but they have a sense of resiliency about them
Yeah.
that, I'm glad because
Yeah.
life can be challenging and I want my girls to be strong and to feel like they can get through anything.
Right.
So there's a lot of lessons in going through
Yeah.
both chapters.
So much. And gosh, so many things that I know that we are going to talk about and get into here, because one of the first things that you said that I just thought is so important, especially when we get into the age where our kids are starting to grow up and maybe life is starting to change, like our roles as moms are starting to change. We went through the pandemic at that same exact time,
Yeah,
which that it was like the whole world was changing all at
yeah.
once. One of the things you said that I felt like is so prevalent for women is when things start to change, things also start to quiet. And
Hmm.
you are not in this frantic, busy mode anymore, like
Yeah,
taking the kids here and doing this and doing that. And then all of a sudden, you're spending a little bit more time with yourself. And
right.
all of a sudden, things that maybe you had put on the back burner or didn't
Yeah,
want to deal with or were in denial of start to come to the surface.
yeah,
And hence this is when women think that they're like starting to go through this midlife crisis.
right.
And we always talk about, here that it's not a crisis. It
No,
really isn't. It really
yeah,
is a becoming. It is
yes,
a new chapter that you're going to be stepping into,
yes.
and it can be beautiful. And I feel like, one of the things that happens though in this time is that women fear choosing themselves.
Oh,
And you and I were
100%.
talking about this, and I know you coach around this as well, and talk about this that really choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's actually sacred and it is a benefit to everyone. So, what does that look like, in as you're talking to your clients? What does that look like in the day to day for women in midlife to be able to choose themselves?
Well, to choose themselves, it's usually, the kind of work that I'm doing as a divorce coach. It's helping these women get honest with the fact that the relationship has run its course, or, they're not with the right partner for them anymore.
Yeah,
And that ending this, marriage relationship is going to be hard, but that in the end, you know, kids seeing their mom happier, kids seeing their dads, happier eventually,
yeah,
and kids seeing that, parents have feelings too.
right.
We are humans at the end of the day, and we're doing the best job that we can. We're navigating a lot, and that we're doing everything that we can with love, but
Mhm.
that staying in something that is, really not serving you, is not making you happy,
Mhm.
in some cases is really unhealthy for a woman.
Mhm.
It's no way to live for you. And as a mother, it's no way for me to role model for my kids, what is acceptable. And, I just believe very strongly that kids are watching us, especially young adult kids, more than listening to what we say. They're watching how we live our lives and how we do things. And, doing really difficult things in life takes a lot of courage. And, for my clients, they're usually very surprised that their kids are, yes, initially selfishly, sad that something is
Yeah.
ending, but also they're usually incredibly proud of their moms. And a lot of kids have been waiting to see their parents make this change because they know that they're living in something that's really unhealthy, then that's unhealthy and unhappy. And they're
Right.
usually very, supportive
Yeah.
of their parents and just, and also, I'm reminding my clients every day that young adults are very self-absorbed in their own life and they're kind of
True.
worried about
Very
what's
true.
going on for them.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't mean to downplay it, but divorce is common and it's not like it's some rare thing. And in the big scheme of life, of what can happen to kids, yes, it's hard. And yes, some divorces are really ugly and horrible, and it's a shame. And I
Mm,
try to do my part to be a part of a process that's very different than that.
mhm.
Nobody wins when it's ugly and people are hurting one another intentionally. I just can't understand that at all. But in
Right.
the big scheme of life, so many things can happen to kids. And,
Yeah.
as long as everyone is healthy and taking care of themselves and leading with love, then this process does not have to be horrible.
Hmm. I
It does.
love that. I love that because, you're right. They're especially as our kids are getting older, they are so into it. It kind of goes back to, that place of when they were little and it was all about them. And then
Yes,
they kind of go through a point where they're, doing other things. And then it comes to them growing up again and, even that early adulthood where it's like, holy cow, I'm adulting and this is a whole new life. So they are so into their own stuff.
they
But
are.
one thing I can absolutely just 100% agree with you is that our kids are watching.
Yeah,
And one of the things that they are doing for us is they are rooting for us.
they are.
And they want us to be happy. And they
Yeah,
know when we have been, I mean, we think we're hiding things well with them
right.
when they're in our home, but
Yes.
we're not. They feel the energy. They know that there are things that can be really tough.
Yes, they
Um,
do. They do.
and I think resilience is, such an important word when we're talking about all of this because not only are we more resilient than we realize, but our kids are resilient as
Yes,
well.
they are. They are.
And I love how you have always come at it with such honesty and integrity with your kids to where, they can maintain relationships with both their mom and dad,
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
you
Oh
you
yeah.
have always, put that out there. And of course, we know every situation is very different and
Right. Right.
all of that is different for each woman, but I do believe that kids, are able to have those harder conversations and we can go there in which they are going, we want you to be happy. We want
Yes.
you to be happy.
Yes.
I watched my mom go through a divorce and selfishly when I was little, now this was with my stepdad. My father passed away when I was really young.
Okay.
So this was with my stepdad, which funny story, they actually got divorced after 5 years, my stepdad and my mom. I was actually, I mean, this is terrible to say, but it was very dysfunctional when they got
Mm,
together at that time. I
okay.
was actually grateful because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is such a disaster. But
Right.
the irony is that 20 years later, they got remarried
Oh my gosh,
and they
that is so
reconnected.
funny.
So here I was in a place of like, okay, this is all over. And then I, as an adult, had to go, oh, whoa, this is all coming back into my life. But
That is so
through all of it,
wild.
yeah, it's a wild story, Lisa. And I'll have to share that with you sometime. It was crazy, but it went back to that place of even though I was confused and frustrated and maybe even a little hurt when they got back together. And mind you, I was in my 30s at this point.
Right.
At the same time, I was still rooting for my mom and her happiness because you know
Yes.
what? I don't want her to be alone forever. I want
Right.
her to be happy. I want her to find that. And
Right.
so yeah, I do really believe we start to mature as children
We
too,
do. They
if we
do.
get in a
They
separate
do. They
way.
do. They
And
do.
I think that's so important for moms to hear because so much of what we do as moms is we are people pleasers and
Yeah.
we want to please
Yeah.
everybody else around us and
Yeah.
make sure everybody else is okay. And we are not a lot of
Right.
those times,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, in the work that you're doing, what are some of the common patterns? Because, sometimes maybe it's a relationship or a divorce, but there's also women considering other big life shifts. Maybe in this quiet time, they are going, okay, my relationship's good, but my work is not. And I want
Right.
to change that. So, what are some of the common patterns or pain points that you see in women that are considering a big life shift?
Well, a lot of the patterns that I deal with are just what you brought up, people pleasing and, living into a role that they have always had.
Hmm.
And like, even when I left my first company, it was very upsetting for a lot of people in my life. Like, even though
Yeah.
like they were just rooting me on from the sidelines, it's how they knew me. So if you've
Hmm.
been doing something for a long time, if people know you in their certain role, and any
Yes.
change that they are thinking about making is going to make the other people in their life uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
so I really try to help encourage that woman that they will let them deal with their discomfort. They'll work through it.
Hmm.
They're all big people too, but
Yes.
no one should be living their life and doing, whether it's being in a relationship or having a career or living in a certain community, no one should be staying in any part of their life because they're worried about how other people are going to do or how they're going to feel if they
Mhm.
change. And
Yeah.
so that's a big thing that I help women with because we are so conditioned to be the good girl, to, go to school, get the job, get the career, get
Yeah.
married, have the kids. Like we're so conditioned to do things a certain way that
Mhm.
when we do get to midlife and things start to unfold and new opportunities come up or whatever it is, we realize that we
Right.
want to make a change. It's very, very hard because we've been living our life as the good girl, is making sure that everyone else is happy with our
For sure.
choices.
Yeah.
And, these two big changes that I made kind of back to back
Yeah.
really allowed me to see that not everybody's going to support you initially,
Hmm.
and not everybody's going to come with you. And that's a big theme that I try to help women understand and help them just come to some peace that
Yeah.
not everyone's going to go with you through every season of your life. And that is okay. I mean, it really, really is okay. I mean, obviously some will. And some people think, oh, my family's always going to be with me. Well, maybe not. If you're part of a toxic
Right.
family and they're not supporting you and they're not, by your side through things, then it's okay to let negative people go, no matter
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
And just to be okay with the decisions that they're making. And, a lot of what I do, Noelle, is really helping women learn to trust themselves again
So key.
because
So
they've
what
lost
does that
trust.
look like? So when you're really, diving into that work and learning how to trust themselves again, what what does that work look like in your world?
Well, the first thing that women can do when they want to start to learn from me is I have a free journal. I mean, I've had it for like a year and a half,
Mhm.
and over 4,000 women have downloaded it and they love it. And, you'll hear business coaches say, like, oh, you need a new free tool or whatever. And I'm like, women love this tool, so I'm not changing it.
Yeah.
And then as I'm working with someone one on one, or even in my groups, I run a group 3 times a year. I
Mhm.
want them to spend time being quiet and just journaling and listening to themselves. Like,
Yeah.
don't even listen to me. I mean, like, listen
Right?
to me, but really,
Yeah.
the most important voice that you need to listen to is yourself.
Yeah.
Because, getting in touch with your intuition again, spending time in quiet, spending time in nature, learning, you don't have to meditate full on, but just even like taking a few moments before
Mhm.
you start your day and just really getting still and just breathing and just really starting to get in touch with how you want to feel.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's such an important muscle to go back and rebuild,
Mhm.
especially if you've been living your life, just sort of tuning out your own inner voice and just listening to everyone else and putting everyone else's needs before you.
Well, I love that because it is. It's like as you are, I mean, I know when I was back in 2020 when I was starting to listen to that inner voice and kind of going through that and knowing I needed to make a change, I was also at this crossroads of like, but how do I do that?
Right.
How do I do that? And then, of course, and work through all of my stuff. And journaling was a huge component of that.
Yeah.
And just taking that quiet time to be able to really get back in touch with our own identity. Because I was like,
Yes.
my whole identity had become the role of a teacher. And I was like,
Right.
how do I leave that?
Right.
How do I leave? Prior to that, I had gone through a divorce after 19 years. And
Yep.
same thing. I was like, how is my identity not being Mrs.
Yes.
Johnston? What
Right.
does that look like? And there came like this shame and this guilt
Yeah.
until I started to do some of that work, and
Absolutely.
I did not know that there were coaches out there that were helping people do this. I was like,
I
oh my
know.
gosh, that could have really probably helped a ton for me to
Right.
work through some of these things that I was struggling with. I went, to counseling and those kinds of things, but there's something beautiful about working with a coach or a mentor
Yeah.
that can walk alongside of you.
Yes.
They're not the guru, they're the guide.
Right.
And many times, being that you specialize, I mean, you really focus on more of the divorce and, different
Hmm.
things like that because you've walked in those
Right.
shoes. You have
Right.
been there.
Right.
And I think that that is something that just feels so good as a woman
Yes.
when you're like, you get me. Because
Right.
I feel like my friends don't get me, my family
Yes.
doesn't get me, but I have
Right.
someone that gets me. And to be in these communities that you said that you
Yes.
offer, a group type of thing, 3 times a year. And I just think
Right.
those saved me later on. Of course, I didn't know about
Right.
it then, but years
Right.
later, it definitely saved me. And that's why I became so passionate to do this work as well.
Absolutely. I
Um,
mean, women just don't, they want to know that they're not alone, and they want to
yeah.
be around other women who are changing their life, who are going through all the same things.
Mhm.
And, even though every situation is different, obviously the themes are the same. And
Right.
I just think more than ever, we just, building community is something that I've always done and what I love to do. And,
Mhm.
really just helping women feel like they're not alone. And,
Yeah.
they have other women that know how it feels to go through so
Right.
much change and to experience grief and to rebuild and to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all such important work. And the other big thing that I do that I really try to help women reestablish is a sense of self-love
Mm,
and really start to, love themselves again, maybe for the first time,
yeah.
because it really can take a toll on you when you go through such a devastating change in your life. And to just really start to lean on yourself, because so
Hmm.
many women are afraid, they're afraid to end their marriage because they're afraid to be on their own.
Yeah.
And I really encourage them to use this as an opportunity to get to know yourself and, fall back in love with yourself and build
Mm,
that inner strength again,
hmm.
because so many amazing things can happen when you start to just lean into yourself.
Yeah, so good. And one of the other things that I really appreciate about your work is financial empowerment.
Hmm.
And because that was something that was really scary for me as I was
Yeah.
going through my divorce was how do I do this alone?
Yeah.
How do I move forward?
Right.
And so, I just think that that's such a powerful part of your work. What is that something that you really bring into the table in your coaching? I mean, I know that I have seen that, but
Yes. I
and
mean,
why?
so I live, first of all, I try and lead by example. So,
Yeah.
I am financially still self-sufficient, on my own. And, I really try to encourage women that whatever it is, wherever they're at, that they have options to go out and create something for themselves. And I
Yeah.
don't care how old you are, I don't care what your skill set is. If you're willing to learn some new skills, if you're willing to try some new things, you can go out and create something for yourself. You can get part-time work, you can get full-time work, you
Right.
can start a business, online, offline. There's a million things that women can do. And I mean, I'm still, building my coaching business and building another health and wellness business at the same time. And I also have in my group, I bring in a woman who's incredible. She is a financial expert for women
Mm,
navigating divorce. And she's been super helpful for the women in my group because so many women are so used to just like sacrificing themselves and
Right.
sacrificing their needs and saying, I just want to get out. I mean, he can have everything. Like, I don't care. And I really am like, no, you need to care. Like, you need to care. And I know you just want this to end. And I know you want this to be easy and you feel like you're hurting
Yeah.
everyone. So you don't want to ask for money. But I cannot understate enough to women how important it is that they get their fair share. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
encouraging women to take anyone to the cleaners,
Of
but
course.
so many, I mean, statistically, women do worse off financially. It's just a fact. Like
Yeah.
women do not land on their feet in the same way that men do. I mean, men don't do as well emotionally. Women do better emotionally. They're happier, but women do poorer financially. And
Right.
so I love to have this woman come in and just really
Love
educate
that.
women about the process. And,
Mhm.
I'm always reminding people that you have rights and no
Mhm.
one has a right to, I mean, listen, there's horror stories everywhere. And I also just really encourage women to tune out the noise, like, your neighbor's divorce, your cousin's divorce. If it was a horrible thing, I'm sorry for them, but that does not mean that yours is going to be
I love
and
that.
I really just encourage them to tune out the noise and to know what they want and to be, do not shortchange yourself and to ask for what you deserve. Whether you've been a stay-at-home mom and that was a choice that you made as a couple,
Yeah.
or if you're a teacher and he's a lawyer and like it's very obvious like who's making more money, like you need to ask for a settlement that's going to be fair to you so that you're not like feeling destitute in your 50s. It should not be that way.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it is so, so important. And just a question for you as far as women who might be out there that are just like kind of in that space of quietly wondering, like, should I stay? Should I leave? What should I do? What are some maybe, reflective questions or some inner check-ins that they could do to kind of help get them really to a place that they're able to start making, or just maybe just start having more clarity around that?
Right, right. Well, I really would encourage them. I mean, they can get my journal, it's free, but just to really start to journal around, when it gets quiet and you're by yourself,
Hmm.
how do you feel? Like, how do you feel? I mean, do you feel at
Yeah.
peace? Do you feel happy? Do you feel, like you're free? And I think where women get caught up is they don't have the time and the space to just really pay attention to how they're feeling and
Right.
not to look for evidence day in and day out, because maybe some days you're working really well, like together collaboratively with your
Mm.
partner. Maybe some days, it's a tougher day, but to try not to be on that roller coaster of looking for the evidence day in and day out, but to really focus more on how you feel day in and day out.
I love that. That is such a great point because, gosh, how many of us are doing that? Like, and making
Right,
ourselves crazy that we're
right,
just looking for the evidence, we're instead
right,
of like going deeper within.
right.
So that
Because
is,
when you really go deeper within, the answers are all there.
yeah.
You have to be brave enough to do that. Get quiet.
Isn't that the truth? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well, I know that you are holding so much space for so many women. How do you, in your daily life now, the Lisa now, how do you stay grounded and aligned while you're still showing up at such a high level for other women?
Well, I do take care of myself. I mean, I really listen to myself and know like when I need to, take some time. I practice what I preach. I journal
Yeah.
every morning. I have a really good morning routine that is really important to me. I spend a lot of time outside in nature. I live
Yes.
close to the beach and, I really just stay very grounded in the fact that none of us are here for a very long time, and that things like the
Mhm.
ocean and the trees and all these things are going to be here long after I'm gone. And I have really just leaned into that part of my life and just it really helps ground me.
Mhm.
And, I do have an amazing partner who's just incredibly supportive and just a real amazing listener. And
Mhm.
and we have found, things that really bring us joy and just going
Oh,
for lots of walks and, enjoying my life in general and just, and as empathetic as I am boundaried myself in how,
yep, yep.
just again, practicing what I preach and staying
Yes.
boundaried. And, I know that these women are gonna get through this hard time. I know that they are, and I know that it isn't easy and that they have a lot of really rough days, but I do have the perspective of, the rearview mirror
Mhm.
in my own life and how I'm doing okay, that even in the toughest circumstances, we are going to be okay, like no matter
Yeah.
what it is. And I do truly believe that. And I live my life that way. And it's funny, what you think about really does manifest. And, the more I
Mhm.
believe that everything is going to work out, the more it works out.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I mean, really, it's like I think about it, and for you specifically, I know you are a new grandma,
I
which is hard to
am.
believe. I look at you
I
and go, "Oh my gosh,
know.
how are you a grandma?"
I know. It's
But
crazy.
it's that legacy, right? And so how has becoming, I think you go by G, do you go by G?
I'm Grammy.
Oh,
I'm just
okay, great.
Grammy.
Yep,
Very,
Grammy.
very old
Okay.
fashioned. Yes.
Yes, I love it. I love
Nothing
it. So you're
fancy.
Grammy. And so how has that even shifted your perspective on legacy?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's just like the greatest joy I could have ever imagined. And,
Right.
listen, this is, again, I'm very transparent. This was not anything that my daughter was planning on at this time. She always wanted to be a mom, but
Yeah.
it took them both by surprise, and it's okay. And he's just such a joy. And because of, the fact that I'm an entrepreneur and I have, the ability to carve out my own schedule, I'm able to be with him. I go up every Wednesday and I spend the day with
Oh,
them and give my daughter a break. She's a stay-at-home mom currently. And, it's just allowed me to lean into truly being present,
love
because
that.
when we're young, when we're raising these kids, we're just like so much, it's all so
Right.
new and overwhelming. And we're thinking about doctor's appointments and making sure that they're eating their broccoli and like all the stuff. And I care about those things for him too, but I truly just show up and I have the maturity and the discipline and the wisdom just to
Mhm.
say, I am tuning out the world. It will all be there when I go
Totally.
home, and I'm just going to stay present for him. And I just know him at such a little, he'll be 2 next week. It's amazing. I know him
Wow.
at
That
such a
went
deeper
fast.
level. I know it goes super fast. And I just, yes, and I love knowing that he's going to know me and have a relationship with me. And he's not going to know that his mom's parents, you know what I mean? Like he won't ever know that my daughter's father and I were married for such a long time.
Right.
He's going to know, you know, Grammy and Danny at the beach, and Grandpa
Mhm.
and Mimi in Idaho in their world. And like he's going to
Yeah.
get this big expanded family that is so awesome and beautiful and imperfect, and I'm actually really proud of that, because life isn't perfect and
Right.
it doesn't matter to him, because he's just loved by all these people. And I was raised inside of a blended family, and I know the challenges of that. And I also know the beauty of that. And so I just
Right.
think he's going to get the best of all of us. And
Totally.
so
Oh, I love
it's
that.
very cool. And I'm young, even though I'm young to be a grandma, like I'm young to be a grandma. So it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome, because I'm going to be there for
Right.
all of the things,
So fun.
all
So
of
fun.
the
I
things.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So good. And it just, if anything, like I just feel like this just gives women such hope that, you may be you may be a listener out there that's struggling and you might be in the thick of it. And just to know, like hearing you w- just gives hope to women that it's like you don't have to stay stuck. We
Yeah.
have choices.
Yes.
We may be in midlife, but ladies, trust me when we tell you that it is not a midlife crisis. And there is so much joy on the other side in your next chapter. And whatever that looks like, whether it be, starting a new relationship, ending a relationship, going into a new, space for your work. Or maybe it's just simply like, my life is really good, but I am struggling just with my own self stuff.
Right.
These are the things that Lisa and I love to work with women on. And Lisa, I would love to ask you, and I know we'll have it all in our show notes, all in the links, but what's some current things that are lighting you up in work and any of your offers or anything that's going on that you would love to share with our audience?
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I am getting ready to launch the fall session of my group coaching program. And that's when we gather as a small group. There's only like 10, maybe 12 women if like they beg me to get in,
Okay.
but where we're really navigating a lot of the things that women are going through if they're contemplating ending their marriage. And it's for women who are, what I call circling the drain and can't really figure out what the right step is to do. And it's for women who are in the messy middle and they're struggling with, all of the confusion and all the emotions and things like that. It's a 7-week program. It's really designed to help women feel connected, get more clarity, and just really build some courage to navigate this process. So that will be, they can get on the wait list if they'd like to just know more about it.
Awesome.
And I'll start to send out emails at the end of the month. And just my free journal, if they just want to start to have the honest conversation with themselves. I mean, I think sometimes women feel like journaling is like this big project that they have to carve out
Right.
the space for. And
Yep.
it's really not. Like, just like sit down and just be relaxed about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I started journaling so many years ago. I mean, I journaled since I was a little girl, but
Hmm.
I just picked it back up as an adult in a form of gratitude. Like I just started a gratitude journal. And
Yep.
even if you just start with that, like just journaling 3 to 5 things every day that you're grateful for, if you do that consistently, your life is going to be very different in a year. And
So
I know it seems like it's so simple and so easy, but sometimes it's the simplest things that really can move the needle and really make a bigger impact on our life.
absolutely. It's so easy for us to make things so much harder or to sit in
Right.
over analyzing and then that's what becomes that paralysis for us.
Yes,
So I love that journaling is so fluid and
it
like you said,
is.
it doesn't have to be this big thing.
No,
It
it
can really
doesn't.
just be sitting down for if you have 5 minutes, if you have 30 minutes.
Right.
It is. I know my mom, it's so funny because we really were, she goes, Noelle, I just hate journaling. You've been journaling since you were little because I was doing that too. And it was so funny because how we started with her was just, I said, okay, well, then don't journal. Just like do a voice note to yourself or just talk in the car. If there's questions that you want to go, like record yourself and talk about it. Then you can revisit it. So she kind of started doing that. And then now, who's journaling? My mom.
That's so
And
great. I love that. That's such a
I
great
love it. She
story,
goes, gosh,
Noelle.
this wasn't so bad after all. I
Good for
actually
you.
enjoy it. But it
Yes,
started with that gratitude. It
yes,
honestly, I think gratitude journaling is the easiest place to start.
it is.
And then we can start going deeper. So I love that you mentioned that. So love, 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 love all of this. And I'm so grateful that we can offer this up and definitely ladies, truly look into this program, grab that free journal. And before we wrap up with Lisa today, we've started this new little fun segment. It's called Spark and Spill. And these are just really quick questions with fast answers straight from the heart. So are you willing to play with me today?
Absolutely.
All right. I just love
Absolutely.
for women to get to know some of the fun parts of us too. So, my first question would be, what is a favorite book or podcast that you're either currently loving or it's a book or podcast that really changed you?
Well, a book that it's thick in terms of like its message and its content, but it has really helped me so much this year. As I read it in January, and it's one of those books that just sort of sits on my nightstand, and it's A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And he
I
is
haven't had that one mentioned
Oh,
yet.
he's amazing. And it's really just about the power of being in this present moment. And I really take this message into my work a lot because you can't look back because you can't, I mean, you can with memories and fondness
Right.
and thankfulness for the memories, but we
Yep.
cannot change the past. We don't know what tomorrow brings. So worrying about it obsessively is not going to do anything but drain our energy. And truly all we have is this present moment. And it's one of those books where you read it and then maybe you go back and read it part of it or read it again in 6 months. And because you've changed and you've evolved, the book speaks to you differently. You put it down, you don't read it again for like 3 or 5 years, and then it's very different. So it's one of those, it's a good come back to it. And it's heavy,
Okay.
but if you're into it, she brought him onto her book club 25 years ago and
Okay.
fell in love with him. And so this year she did it again. She brought back the book. It's the
Oh,
only time she's ever
cool.
brought back a book. So you can go to the Oprah podcast and they break the book down together. So even if you don't want to get into the book, but you just want to kind of get a flavor. And, she does such a brilliant job of interviewing people and she brings in outside guests and you can just kind of check that out and see if it might be something that you want to dive into. So
Love
that's my
that.
plug
Oh,
for a
that's a good
newer.
one. That's a good
Yeah.
one. All
Yeah.
right. Well, what is something that instantly shifts your mood?
Exercise,
Awesome.
exercise,
Yep.
always. Even if
Yep.
it's just a walk around the block.
Okay.
It's a game changer. Always just moving the energy, getting your blood flowing.
Love it.
It's so important. Getting
Yep.
the endorphins going.
Yes. Love,
Yeah.
love, love that. What is, if you drink coffee, what's your coffee order? If not, what about tea or maybe something else entirely? What's your
No, I
favorite
love my
beverage?
coffee. I don't order coffee out a lot right now, but if I do, um, because I make it at home and I just, love my little coffee machine and
Yeah.
I'm pretty simple, but if I do, it's a yummy oat milk latte. It's just kind
Yep.
of sweet indulgence. Yes. And
Love it.
I
Love
do
it.
love my
Okay. Two
coffee.
more questions. One more
Okay.
is, what is on your nightstand right now?
Okay.
Or one thing at least that's on your
Well,
nightstand.
my journal is always on my
Okay.
nightstand. Yeah, I have a lot on my nightstand actually. I'm always like, I gotta clear this out. Definitely some books, the Eckhart Tolle book. I'm reading a book about money right now, which I'm really enjoying. My journal and, pictures of my girls and my grandson.
Love it. Love it. And last question, if you could give your younger self one sentence of advice, what would it be?
It's so easy. I mean, don't worry so much.
Love it.
Don't sweat all the little things
Love it.
because
Love it. Exactly. It's as
yeah.
easy as that. Really,
Yeah,
don't sweat all the
don't
little
sweat the
things.
little things.
Love it.
Truly, truly.
Love. Oh my gosh, Lisa, thank you so much for just your honesty, your energy, your heart. I have enjoyed this so much. And
Oh my gosh,
it,
thank you. No,
yeah,
this
it's
was
been
so
so fun.
wonderful. No,
I
you're the
know.
best. I so appreciate what you're doing for women and just really grateful for the opportunity to share. And I'm so proud of you. I am.
Oh, well, like I said, feelings are mutual. I remember, I mean, truly, like this is going back, but in the company that we were both in, I remember I did not know you at the time. I knew of you. You were on the big stages. And there was just always, speaking of energy, there was just always an energy that I was drawn to you. And I was like,
Mm.
gosh, I just really appreciated you. You inspired me back then. You continue to inspire me now. And
Oh,
I am
thank
just so
you.
grateful that we can be sitting here together having this conversation because I really do feel like your story is a mirror for so many women and especially those that are like standing on this edge of a new chapter
Right,
and wondering like am I too late, what am I going to
right.
do? So you've just reminded us in this conversation that it's possible,
Yes.
anything is possible, and
Anything.
you can start over and it's okay.
Anything.
And I am so so grateful, and those of you listening that just felt so seen here, please go connect with Lisa. Like I said, we're going to connect everything on the show notes. Lisa, where's the best place to find you? I
You
just
can
so
just go to my
people
website,
know.
lisablaisdell.com. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, go to her website. And thank you again so much, Lisa. And until
Thank you
next
so
time,
much, honey. So appreciate you.
love you too, girl. Keep rising, keep shining, and know that your best day is waiting right here for you. And we'll see you next week. Bye, friends. Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review. And don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.